Hello guys, so I didn't say the title of this video because it's a little bit hard to title, but what I'm trying to say in this video is that this might sound counterintuitive, but if you try and hoard everything for yourself, you will not have anything in the end. Money kind of applies to this. I'm not talking about stuff here. You might think that, oh, like people who want to have a lot of stuff, you know, you're just consumerist, you're just maximalist, you have a problem. But no, that is okay as long as you have a good reason for it. It is okay to want a lot of stuff. It is okay to have a lot of stuff. The problem comes to when you're doing that at the expense of others, or when you have those things for a bad reason. Let's say, like, I like hot pink, so I want to own all of the hot pink shoes in the world. Like, that is a bad reason. That is unnecessary. But me saying I want to own a lot of pink shoes in and of itself isn't bad just because it's a lot. I know that, like, there are people in the world who are struggling and stuff like that, and it's not fair, right? But the problem isn't the items, okay? So you don't have to guilt trip yourself into thinking that because other people can't have this, I can't have it, you know? And you might think that this is a bad mindset to have, but it's just principle. What we need to fix about wealth inequality isn't the amount of stuff people have. Some people may not have a lot of stuff, some people may have a lot of stuff, but it's not about the amount of stuff you have, but it's about the lifestyle you're living and the income that you have. So that's what we need to be fixing, right? The problem is the fact that they don't even have enough income to have access to those things, or that their environment doesn't provide them with the ability to have access to those things. I'm trying to say here that the individual is not the problem, okay? The billionaire is not necessarily the problem. The problem is the fact that all the money is going to them, okay? So yeah, I'm just trying to say that this statement that I'm making about keeping a lot of stuff is not about keeping a lot of stuff for yourself. It's okay to want a lot of stuff for yourself. The only reason that it seems like a sinful thing is because not everybody has access to that. But just because not everybody has access to it doesn't make it evil. Just because something is hidden doesn't make it evil. It just means that it's not somewhere that it should be. And that's the problem, right? That it should be there, but it's not. But anyway, when I'm saying this, I'm talking about spiritually, right? If you only give to the people who you think deserve it, you're not being fair. Basically, I'll stick to what I know or something like that. You think that's a good thing, but it's actually evil, right? You know the saying, the devil you know is better than the angel that you don't know. No, they're not. Okay, people put too much emphasis on familiarity because they're scared of uncertainty. But uncertainty is what brings beautiful things. Uncertainty is what brings you to the things that you want to be familiar with. Like, before you love something, you have to be uncertain about it, right? And I'm not saying that, oh, you have to be all the time, you have to be confused. But what I'm saying is that it's okay if you're in uncertainty for just a little bit. So you don't have to stick with what you know all the time. And this goes both ways, right? Yeah, you don't have to stick with what you know all the time, but in certain things you do, because if you don't, you're going to put yourself in situations that you anticipated you weren't going to like because you didn't stick to what you know you'll like. Yeah, I know this is a little confusing of a topic to pick, and maybe it's a little weird too, and maybe it's also weird that I'm kind of encouraging people that, hey, you can be maximalist, but it's just quality of life, right? Let me put it this way. If anyone had $1 million, would they be frugal? Probably not. And I don't mean frugal as in conserving your items, taking good care of them. I mean, would they think about every single thing they bought, or would they actually buy the things that they like and just stick with it, you know? So like, that's kind of how I want to live life, right? Basically, as if I have $1 million, I would have 1 million things, right? And yes, I would still be able to take care of and maintain and look after those things. Just because you have a lot doesn't mean that's automatically wrong. But the problem becomes when the reason you have a lot is deliberately to show off, or you don't actually like the items, you're just doing it for status. But if you want to have a good lifestyle and you're just buying things because you want to support that, that's not wrong. Even if it looks like a lot to other people, if it's sufficient for you, then it's fine. And on this note, perfection and seeking perfection will trap you. People have a misconception of what perfection is. Perfection is God and the spirit of love. That's all it is. So When those two things are there, that is what perfection is. Perfection is not everybody getting everything right, everybody being nice to everybody. Because like I said, there are people who you are spiritually incapable of talking to and being with. So if you try to be nice to those people, that's actually sinful for both you and them, because you're encouraging a spirit that God does not want you to be around, which is their spirit, right? Now, when the world is better, if things were perfect, would people actually be nice? Yes, but it doesn't start from the outside. It doesn't start from how people treat others. It starts from the inside. It starts from their heart. Okay, we're looking for the spirits, the heart first, before we start looking for the perfection. You kind of need both God and love for perfection, because if you only have love but no God, you might think something is nice, but it's not the right thing for you to be doing. And if you only have God but no love, like that's basically you going to any church, right? But it doesn't mean you love the people there, so you don't just do that. The more important thing and the more honest thing than doing something out of obligation is doing something out of love. I've told you guys before that you are not owing anyone love, not even your own people who raise you and stuff like that. What you owe those people, right, is respect. But you are the one who decides, I want to love them, okay? And the reason for that is because love is a spirit. So if you're trying to love somebody when your heart is not in it, the spirit is not there, right? But the spirit can at least be there when you put your heart in it. It's not all the time that you put your heart in it that the spirit is there, but the point I'm trying to make is that love is a spirit. And so that's why it's not mandatory. Respect is not something spiritual. Respect is just something that you think about and you do it, right? But that's not how love works. You don't just think about love and do it. It comes to you. The person makes you feel a certain way and you realize that you love them, and that's when you can feel the spirit within your relationship. And that's what makes relationships beautiful. Not somebody who says, I'm going to do this to be a good husband, but somebody who says, I love her enough to be a good husband to her, or, any other scenario, right? So yeah, I don't want you guys to focus on, I'm doing this because I'm supposed to, but I want you to focus on being authentic and truly being in touch with your emotions. People push by emotions too much because they think they're irrational, but they're the very thing that makes you authentic. Yes, they're not always reliable, but it's better for you to be unreliable and in touch with your emotions than to be a robot who maybe everybody can depend on them to be there the next day, but they have no feeling. So be in touch with your emotions. I'm not saying rely on it all the time, but at the very least, let yourself loose and don't be constrained by obligation. Alright guys, I think that's it for this video. I know the topic is a little bit confusing and weird, and it's also kind of common sense as most of my videos are, but and I think that'll be it. Bye!